Hey guys, and welcome back to the course. In this video, we will create the game over for our game, which will recap what score the player has got, and it will give the ability to restart the game. Right, so here instead of Unity, we went ahead and created this little game over pop-up menu. So it's basically just a UI image for the backgrounds. Then we've got a text element that says game over, another for the score with the little score image icon, and then we have got a restart button as well as a text element that says waiting for host to restart. So basically, when a player reaches 0 health, we'll want to activate this game over pop-up menu for both players. We'll then update the score text so that it reads our correct score value. Then we'll only want to show the restart button on the master client, so the player that created the room. The other player, so the one that joined the room, will have the waiting for host to restart text showing up instead. So let's have the restart button activated and the text deactivated by default. Now let's click here to hide this game over pop-up menu for the moment. So now let's jump inside of our health script and let's get this game over menu popping up when we reach 0 health. So I'll create a public game object variable called game over that will store the menu that we just created. Then inside of the take damage RPC function, right underneath the line where we are decrementing our health value by 1, we'll check if our health variable is less than or equal to 0. If that's the case, then we have lost the game, and so we will say gameover.setActiveTrue. It's as simple as that. So to quickly recap, each time that we take damage, we're calling this take damage function. This function doesn't do anything apart call the take damage RPC function. Remember that RPCs are special photon functions that synchronizes to the network everything that's inside of them. So then once we've applied the damage, we're checking if our health has reached 0, and if it has, then we're activating our game over menu. It will of course pop up for both players since we're setting it active inside of our RPC function. Alright, so back into the Unity, I will select my health object and I will drag and drop my game over menu inside of the slots. Alright, now let's update the score text to show the correct score of the game. To do so, let's create a brand new C# script called game over. And once it has been created, I will drag and drop it onto my game over menu. Inside of here, we'll start off by importing the Unity engine.ui namespace, so we can modify UI from within the script. With that done, we can go ahead and make a public text variable that I'll call scoreDisplay. Now inside of the start function, which will run as soon as our game over menu gets activated, we want to modify our score text. So I'll say scoreDisplay.text equals find object of type score.score.toString. So this line is basically searching our Unity scene for the score scripts, and then once it has found it, we're fetching our score variable inside of it, and then converting that integer into a string. This will cause a little error though, and that is because in order to be able to have access to the score variable from within another script, we need to make that variable public. So I'll quickly jump inside of the score script, and I'll just add the public keyword in front of the score variable. So to quickly recap, as soon as our game over menu gets activated, this start function will run. And in here, we're just modifying our score text to show the current score value. Next, let's allow only the master client to see the restart button and the non-master client to see the waiting for host to restart text. So to start off, I'll import the photon.pun namespace. I'll also create a public game object variable called restart button, as well as a public game object variable called waiting text. Then right underneath this line, I'll check if photon network.isMasterClient equals false. In other words, if we are not the player that created the room. If this is the case, then we want to go ahead and deactivate the restart button by saying restart button.setActiveFalse. And we will activate our waiting text by saying waiting text.setActiveTrue. Okay, so by default, our restart button is activated and our text is not. But once our game over menu pops up, we are checking if we are the player that joined the room, and not the one that created it. And if that's the case, then we are disabling the button and enabling the text. Alright, so back into the Unity, don't forget to drag and drop your button and your text into the correct slots. Our final task is to now make this restart button actually restart our game. So first things first, I'll add a Photon View component onto our game over menu since we're going to need to call a RPC function. With that done, we could jump back into our scripts. Let's start off by making a Photon View variable called view. And like usual, inside of the start function, we will set it equal to the Photon View component that is attached to our game over menu. Now I'll make a public void function called onClickRestarts. This is the function that we will call from our onClick event on our button component. Make sure to make it public, otherwise you won't be able to find it inside of the button components. Now this function won't do anything apart from call a RPC called restarts, and this special function will get called on all of our players. So now let's make this void restart function. And again, to turn it into a RPC, I'll add on top of it the pun RPC tag inside of square brackets. Inside of this function, we will simply need to call photonnetwork.loadLevel, and inside of the parentheses, pass the name of the scene that you want to load. So I'll type game. Remember that we need to use the photonnetwork.loadLevel function instead of the classic Unity engine.loadScene function, since we're loading up a networked scene. In other words, a scene where there are multiple players inside of it. So to recap, when we will click on our restart button, this public function will get called, and it will simply call our restart RPC. This next function simply loads our game scene for both players. Alright, so we can now save the script and go back to Unity. Now we just need to select our restart button and come down to the onClick event section. Let's click on this little plus sign and then drag and drop our game over menu inside of this slot. Now we can just find our game over script and select the onClick restart public function. Okay, everything should be working perfectly, so let's build the game by pressing Ctrl B or Command B if you're on the Mac. Okay, so let's wait until we reach 0 health, and yes, our game over menu is showing on both versions of the game. It is displaying perfectly the score, and the master client is showing the restart button, whereas the player that joined the room is showing the text instead. Now, if we go ahead and click on restart, you'll see that both players beautifully load up the game scene again.